The man's eyes flit this way, flit that way, scanning the crowd. I turn my head just at the right moment so he doesn't notice me.
Sir, I need your ID.
I glance at the TSA agent and pull out my badge.
I don't know what that is.
The TSA agent responds, looking bored and annoyed.
I need your driver's license, which must be a real ID or your passport.
I'm NSA, I say in a low voice, my eyes drifting to the man I'm tailing. This badge will get me through.
What's NSA again?
The TSA agent asks his coworker out of the corner of his mouth.
If I know.
The other TSA agent replies while he checks other travelers' IDs.
Let the guy through. It's not a real ID or passport.
I'm a federal agent. I don't need a real ID or passport.
You do if you want to go through this security checkpoint,
the TSA agent says, and I can see his shoulders tense. He's getting ready for a power play. He wants to throw his weight around a little. I lift my phone and take his picture.
Hey!
He snaps and reaches for my phone, but I keep it out of his reach.
That does it, buddy. You're about to spend a few hours in a small room with a locked...
Jonas Billings, age 36, married twice, divorced once, currently cheating on his wife with his ex. $14,000 in a hidden savings account that his first wife, the one he's cheating on his current wife with, doesn't know about. Oh, and you have a kid with a high school sweetheart that neither of your wives, current or ex, has any clue exists. The man glares at me. He looks at his colleague. That man shrugs.
You got drama, bro,
the other agent says. Do you want me to list your browser history? I ask, raising my voice. Especially that website with the peanut butter and...
Get the fuck out of my sight,
the TSA agent says and pushes me along.
Asshole.
I tuck my badge into my jeans pocket. I'm not in my usual black suit. Not today. That uniform is a dead giveaway, and I need to track this motherfucker before he does something horrible. Now, where did the motherfucker go? Normally, I can bypass security, but I needed to keep an eye on the man. Lot of good that did me. I do my best not to look like someone looking for someone, but the glances I get from travelers tells me I'm not doing a great job. I shouldn't be surprised. I'm not the guy they usually send for stealth missions. I'm the guy they send when they need shit to get handled, no matter the method. And I have a lot of methods. Although, after the last job, the brass aren't exactly happy about my methods. Some might say I'm on thin ice, so doing my best today matters more than any assignment I've had. I hurry through security, grateful that the agent at the body scanner knows what the NSA is. He doesn't bat an eye at my badge or my gun, and just waves me around the scanner. My eyes flit left and right, back and forth, just like my praise did when he first entered the security line. Then I catch sight of the man rounding a corner, heading down a ramp to Concourse C. I'm on his ass immediately. When I get down the ramp, I see him duck into a Hudson News shop. He doesn't glance around as he enters, so I'm pretty sure he has no idea I'm tailing his ass. Getting out of the flow of traffic, I move over to the wall and kneel down to tie my shoe, even though it's not untied. A little girl gives me a look, and I smile at her. She sticks out her tongue, and I have to blink for a second. Was her tongue forked? Did I just see that? Before I can go over the image in my head, my guy walks out of Hudson News with a party-sized bag of Skittles and a water in his hands. He looks up at the signs, orients himself, and heads down the concourse for his gate. It was easy to crack his itinerary. He had a sophisticated security protocol on his modem, his router, and his laptop. But the airplane app on his phone was built by a 5-year-old, and it gave him up with only a few finger swipes on my part. I didn't even have to get near him. I was able to break into his account from the app's backend. No close proximity needed. With my guy on the move again, I stop pretending to tie my shoe, stand up, look the opposite direction, count to 8, and then look back over my shoulder. Yep, there he goes. Headed to flight 313 at gate 19, just like the app said. I weave my way through the crowd, never in a hurry, slow and easy, like I'm just killing time before my own flight. I barely give my guy a look when I pass him, walking 2 gates down to 21. An older woman stands up just as I reach the row of seats at the gate. Her spot is exactly the one I need in order to watch my guy without raising suspicion. The gate attendant's voice booms over the PA about some flight or other being delayed, and the man sitting 2 seats down leans my way and says,
Better than driving.
I smile and nod and go back to my surveillance. Then the man opens his mouth to say something else, and I hold up a finger. He jerks back, frowns, and shakes his head.
People used to be friendly,
he says, and goes back to whatever doom scroll he's addicted to on his phone. My phone chimes. When I look at the screen, it's my turn to frown. Flight 313 is full. Do whatever you have to get on that flight. On it, I reply. When I tuck my phone into my pocket, I watch my guy lean down and say something to a woman sitting in one of the chairs facing the windows. She nods, then looks over her shoulder. At me. Letting my eyes gloss over as if I'm spacing out, I don't look away. When she keeps staring, I let my eyes focus. Then I frown at her, blink a few times, smile sheepishly, and look in a different direction in a slow, languid way like I'm just another bored traveler trying to pass the time. From the corner of my eye, I notice my guy hurry off to the far side of Gate 19, where he tucks himself into a corner seat and buries his face in his phone. The woman continues to stare at me. I keep acting bored. After a minute, she turns her attention away, and I let out a mental sigh. I have no idea what the relationship is. The file didn't say anything about him having contacts. He's been a loner for the past 8 months. Woman, mid-30s, auburn hair, blue eyes, tan power suit, black briefcase, beige shoulder bag. I send the text and wait. In less than a second, the response is, unknown, not in file. No shit. Subject made contact, Gate 19. Pull up security feed. One moment, please. It's not a real person I'm texting with. The AI assistants the NSA has right now have gotten pretty damn sophisticated. Basically, I'm using one to do my search for me. Some agents worry we'll be replaced. I'm not. You still need shoes on the ground to get shit done. An AI can't subdue a subject. Leisel DeLong. What's a Leisel DeLong? Is that her name? Leisel? Like in that musical with the kids and the Nazis? Yes. Background? Unknown. Occupation? Age? Home address? Unknown. How the fuck is it unknown? You have her name. You have access to every database the FBI, CIA, NSA, DHS, and all agencies have. Find her. One moment, please. The sound of the gate attendant announcing that boarding has begun for Flight 13 to New Mexico filters through the noise to my ears. New Mexico? The flight isn't supposed to be going to New Mexico. I thought I was going to, I shake my head, surprised I can't recall the exact destination. But I'm pretty sure it wasn't New Mexico. My confusion brings up 100 questions in my head. But the biggest one is, where is New Mexico? A flight doesn't just go to a state. Before I can double-check the flight's actual destination, the AI assistant texts back with Leisel DeLong, 34, in finance. I wait. Nothing else is added. That's it? Insufficient data on Leisel DeLong. Weird. Like, really weird. Even if Leisel DeLong is an alias, which it obviously is, it should have pinged some sort of intel. How does a woman with a blank file make it through airport security? I'm an NSA agent, and TSA gave me a ration of shit. Track her since she arrived at the airport, I text. One moment, please. My guy still has his face buried in his phone. He hasn't looked up since he tucked himself into that corner seat. A few travelers stand up as their boarding group is called. I see that little girl holding her mother's hand. She swivels her head like her neck is made of ball bearings, not flesh and bone, and I try not to shudder as her eyes find mine. She sticks that tongue out again, and it takes all my willpower not to recoil. It is 100% forked. What the actual? My phone chimes. No surveillance on Leisel DeLong's arrival. What? Look again. She's here, so she had to arrive somehow. Yes. Yes what? Yes, she had to arrive somehow. Your conclusion is correct. I fucking know my conclusion is correct. Find footage of her arriving. There is no need for foul language. Article 647 states that agents shall not use abusive language toward enhanced assistants. Enhanced? It means I ignore whatever else it texts. I know what the word enhanced means. I'm just not happy about the euphemism being used for AI. Call it what it is, artificial. Track my guy. Track Edgar Nye from arrival at the airport to arrival at gate 19. A moment, please. A new boarding group is called, and both my guy Edgar and the fake Leisel DeLong stand up and join the queue. In seconds, they are through and lost from my sight on the jet bridge. I get up and slip quickly through the rows of seats until I'm at the gate desk. Need to be on this plane, I say, setting my badge face up on the desk. The gate agent, a smiley man with freckles across his cheeks and a widow's peak that looks almost painted on, glances down at my badge, up at me, and over to his screen.
I am sorry, Agent Krakauer, but the plane is full,
he says after half a second's search.
I'd bump someone for you, but we're already boarding.
What about the jump seat?
Jump seat?
The fold-down extra seat you keep for other flight crew members. He leans across the counter and whispers.
Yes, well, the jump seat is currently occupied by an air marshal.
Bump him. I'll serve as marshal on the flight.
I'm not sure I can do that.
The NSA trumps the air marshal service. I need to be on this flight, and no is not an acceptable answer.
Can I ask what the urgency is? Is the flight in danger?
I stare at him, my face blank.
Agent Krakauer, I need some info.
No, you don't. Get me on the flight. He swallows hard, then nods. After a moment, he reaches under the desk and hands me a boarding pass.
I'll let you break the news to the marshal.
Is he already on board?
He is.
No problem. I join the queue, and after being scanned through, I'm standing on the jet bridge in line with the other passengers. The air is sticky and warm, and I can feel sweat trickling down the small of my back.
First time flying,
a man behind me says. Excuse me? I ask as I look back at him.
First time flying,
he says again. It's not a question.
No. I've flown 1,000 times easy.
I say and focus on the line in front of me.
Not on this flight, you haven't,
he says, and I catch the amusement in his voice.
That's so,
I say and return my attention to him.
What's so special about this flight?
He laughs softly.
An interesting question.
Do you have an interesting answer? He laughs again.
How'd you get a ticket?
What's the matter?
It matters.
Same way as everyone else.
Oh, I doubt that.
Why?
If you'd flown this flight before, you'd know why.
Another laugh.
Law enforcement.
It's not a question.
Me?
Nah, sales.
Sales?
Sales.
Okay.
He looks past me and nods.
Line is moving.
I close the space that is opened between myself and the next passenger. In a minute, I'm stepping on board the plane. Jump seat, I say, and show my boarding pass to the flight attendant.
I'm sorry?
She asks, a brown-skinned, petite woman with the name tag Zoe on her chest. I'm using the jump seat, I say and slip my badge out of my pocket and flash it at her from my hip, hoping none of the passengers behind me notice, especially the nosy older guy. She looks around, then gestures behind her. If you can step over here, we'll sort this out once everyone has boarded. I ease around her and lean my shoulder against a locked cabinet that probably has extra pretzels or those cinnamon cookies they only serve now. A male flight attendant with pasty skin and hair moosed in a very intentionally messy way squeezes by Zoe, then stops and stares at me.
Can I help you?
He asks.
Nope, I'm good.
Brian, I say, reading his name tag. He gets closer.
But really, how can I help you, Mr.
Agent Krakauer, I say quietly. I'll be taking the air marshal's place.
You're an air marshal?
He asks.
For this flight? I've never seen you before.
I don't reply. He doesn't need to know why I'm here, just that I'm here.
Zoe?
He asks over his shoulder, his eyes still on me.
What is this?
Passengers first, Zoe says. Brian huffs, but doesn't argue. He hip checks me out of the way and opens the cabinet I was leaning on. Blankets and pillows, not snacks. Grabbing out 2 sets of each, he slips by Zoe without giving me a second look. I catch him handing the sets to 2 passengers in first class, then moving into an empty row so other passengers can flow by on the way to their much, much cheaper seats. I don't want this to be a big show, I say to the back of Zoe's head.
I can just go and let the Marshal know.
You'll wait, she says.
Ma'am, I don't think you understand.
She whirls on me and I have to take a step back. My ass hits the exit door on the other side of the space. For a second, I could have sworn her eyes were pitch black.
You'll wait.
I bristle at her tone, but don't want to rock the boat, or plane, as the case may be. So I give her a harsh grin and nod, returning my shoulder to the cabinet filled with pillows and blankets. The passengers file by, their attention focused on getting to their seats and stowing their carry-ons. Only a few even glance in my direction, except for the last passenger. A man in his 50s, maybe early 60s, with long, salt and pepper hair pulled back into a loose ponytail. He has a straw cowboy hat on and a lot of turquoise. Pausing in the plane's doorway, he shifts his focus from me to Zoe.
When they'd start letting them on?
He asks her. She shrugs. He frowns. She shrugs again. He looks back at me.
Have a good flight,
he says, smiling at me as he eases by Zoe and walks down the center aisle. Brian returns and shares a look with Zoe. Then he closes and locks the plane's door.
I'll show him to the jump seat,
Zoe says, walking off without a word to me. I follow quickly and smile at folks as they look up at me from their seats. Not a single smile is returned. In fact, most people narrow their eyes or frown at me. A few lean over to the person sitting next to them and start whispering. Then I see Edgar Nye in row 23, seat F, his head resting against the plane's wall, his eyes focused on the hustle and bustle of equipment swirling around the tarmac outside. He doesn't even flick his eyes in my direction, which is exactly how I want it to be. I hurry by, struggling to keep up with Zoe. The frowns and whispers continue. By the time we reach the very back of the plane, I've been eye-fucked by almost every single passenger.
Marshal Marks, we have an issue,
Zoe says to a big man seated in the fold-down jump seat bolted to the wall right past the rear bathroom. The man is busy reading a newspaper, an honest-to-God, actually made of tree pulp newspaper. I didn't know they still sold those. The paper lowers, and the largest mustache I've ever seen appears. Under the mustache is the man's mouth, although it's nearly impossible to make out. But I don't need to see his mouth to hear his words.
What the fuck is this guy doing on board? He shouldn't be here.
That's the issue, Zoe says, and returns down the aisle without saying another word, leaving us to our business.
Well?
The Marshal asks.
What's your damage?
My damage? No damage. I pull out my badge. He studies it.
So fucking what?
He asks.
That's supposed to mean something to me?
I need your seat. I'm on a case.
Good for fucking you. But this here is my seat. Has been for some time. This ain't a seat you just take from me, you hear? There's protocols.
Protocols, yes. Like the NSA being able to override the Air Marshal Service. That's a favorite of mine.
Won't be for long,
he says, and slowly folds his newspaper. When he's done, he stands up, tucks the paper under his arm, and tips his hat to me.
I ain't gonna fight you too hard on this one. It's been a long, long trip, and honestly, I didn't think I'd ever get off. But here you are.
He sighs, and I think he's giving me a sad smile. Hard to tell with that mustache. He leans in.
Can I offer you a little advice?
I doubt it. He jerks his head back and snorts.
Well, fuck you then.
I watch his features go through a range of emotions. Then he snorts again.
Fuck it. I'll tell you anyway. Get your shit tight. Because whoever your bosses are, they done you dirty.
Then he moves 2 steps to the bathroom, his hand resting on the door's latch.
Good luck, Mr. NSA Override.
It's Agent Krakauer, I say and take a seat.
Yeah, but for how long? Ego death can be a bitch.
Before I can ask what the hell that means, he laughs, then steps into the bathroom. He's probably going to drop a nasty one in there just to stink me out. Doesn't matter to me. I've been in worse situations. A little crapper bomb won't bother me at all.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We'll be taking off shortly.
so please remain in your seats with your seatbelts fastened properly. Flight time will be 2 hours to our initial destination, with another 48 hours for our route to be complete. Snacks and beverages will be provided, of course, by our wonderful flight attendants. As always, thank you for flying Roswell Air. We hope your transition will be smooth and pleasant. I can't help but chuckle. What the hell was that? I know some captains like to have a little fun with their pre-flight announcements, but that was just strange. 48 hours? Cute. Clicking my seatbelt together, I crane my neck and look down the aisle at row after row of passengers. All I see are the backs of heads or headrests. My guy, Mr. Nye, is up there in row 23, seat F, but I can't see him. Not that it matters. There's nowhere for him to go. The second he moves from his seat, I'll have a perfect view down the aisle. Flight attendants, prepare the cabin for takeoff, the captain announces. As the plane begins to shudder and jostle the passengers, Zoe and Brian move quickly, taking up trash, answering questions, showing off the safety procedures. Then Zoe moves to the front, and Brian is walking down the aisle toward me. He folds down a jump seat opposite of me and straps himself in. I glance with worry at the bathroom.
The Marshal is still in there, I say. Doesn't he need to deplane? There's no one in there,
Brian says without looking at me or the bathroom.
No, I saw him go in there. He never left. There is no one in there,
Brian insists, exasperated.
Listen, Sir, there is no one in the bathroom,
Brian says, facing me and baring his teeth. And I mean baring them. He must have been some sorry goth kid when he was in high school, because his teeth are filed to fine points.
Jesus,
I say, then blink. His teeth are perfectly straight, perfectly sized, perfectly white.
Okay. Trick of the light.
I try to focus on the problem at hand.
But I saw him go in there. Who? The Marshal!
Brian sighs like the weight of the world has fallen on his shoulders. He unbuckles, stands up quickly, and yanks open the bathroom door. I lean forward and twist my head and shoulders to peer into the bathroom. It's empty.
But he didn't leave. Apparently he did,
Brian says, sitting back down and buckling his belt.
Are you going to be a problem, Agent whatever your name is? Krakauer. Don't care. You shouldn't be on this plane. I think you'll be happy I am. I doubt that.
The plane picks up speed, and I rest my head against the seat back as everything goes weightless for half a second. We are in the air. An hour into the flight, and neither Brian nor Zoe has gotten up to offer snacks or beverages. 2 hours into the flight, and it's the same.
Nice service,
I say to Brian, who was busy organizing something in the small galley space next to our 2 seats.
Roswell Air? I haven't heard of this airline before. No reason you should. Well, I am an NSA agent, so knowing shit like this is sort of my job. And what does that say about how well you do your job?
A bell dings, and he hurries away, obviously happy that a passenger is calling him, so he doesn't have to continue talking to me. Nature calls, and I get up to use the bathroom. At least it's close. When I have the door locked behind me, I pull out my phone. Airplane mode is mostly a myth. It doesn't do a thing to the plane's operation if phones are on. It's just so signals don't mess up the cockpit's comm system. Roswell Air, what can you tell me? I text the AI. 1 moment, please. I wait and wait and wait. I could have Googled the airline faster. Roswell Air is not listed as a current operator in U.S. airspace. Are you in a foreign country? No, don't be stupid. I'm flying to New Mexico. You know that. 1 moment, please. I wait some more. Roswell Air does not exist. This could be a database error, or you could be in grave danger. Are you in grave danger, Agent Krakauer? I don't think so. Keep searching for Roswell Air. Also, try to figure out why the pilot said we'll be in the air for 48 hours before the route is complete. No plane can stay in the air that long without running out of fuel. Also, it makes no fucking sense. A reminder about foul language, Agent. A moment, please. Before the AI can get back to me, there's a loud knock on the bathroom door.
Just a second.
The knock comes again, harder.
Occupied!
The door rattles in its frame.
What the fuck?
I snap and jerk it open.
Listen up. You can wait your...
Edgar Nye shoves his way into the bathroom, closing and locking the door behind him.
What the hell?
I snap and go for my gun.
Stop!
Edgar hisses, pushing me backward. I slam the heel of my left hand up under his chin, making his teeth clack together and his head rock back. It barely phases him. I'm still trying to get my gun free with my right hand, but he's got me wedged into the corner of the bathroom, and I can't get the right angle.
Why are you following me?
He snarls, his face up close to mine. I'm able to bring a knee up into his groin. He oofs, but the blow doesn't have anywhere close to the effect it should. I'd be doubled over and trying not to puke if that much knee, with that much force, hit my nuts.
You're a person of interest.
I snarl as I twist my body, desperate to get the upper hand. But Edgar only matches me, movement for movement. At no point while I have been tailing him would I have suspected he has the chops to fight off a federal agent. And I am one well-trained field agent, not some pencil-pushing desk jockey.
I shouldn't be any of that,
he hisses. And it's not just an affectation. His voice is now a full-on hiss, like a slow leak from a sad balloon. The words truly seem to hiss out of his mouth more than they are spoken.
Any of what? Of interest or a person?
I laugh hard in his face. He doesn't laugh back. He doesn't answer me at all. What he does do is let go so I can take a step back, his eyes watching me closely.
Someone doesn't like you if they sent you after me,
he says and reaches back, his hand finding the latch.
Or someone likes you a lot, and this is the hardest test you've ever been given. Either way, the next 40 hours will not be kind to you. 40? We've been barely in the sky for 3.
He shakes his head.
Yeah, someone doesn't like you.
Then he's opening the door and slipping out past a smirking Brian.
You all right there, Agent?
Brian asks, not even trying to hide his amusement.
Did you fall in?
Move, I reply and try to push past Brian. His hand clamps onto my shoulder, and it's like a bag full of heavy, wet sand gripping me. I try to pull free, but Brian's hand just stays with me no matter what direction I twist and turn. When I reach for my gun, it's not there. It's just gone.
I'm going to ask you to sit down now,
Brian says, and directs me to my jump seat.
It's for your own good. We'll be making several stops, and I would hate for a frail creature like you to get hurt. Where's my fucking gun?
I shout, and try one last time to break away. His sandbag hand is having none of that, and I'm forced into my jump seat where Brian, one-handed, manages to get my seatbelt across my lap and buckled.
Stay,
he says, his face an inch from my own. His eyes turn pitch black and I would recoil, but there's nowhere to recoil to. My head only presses harder against the thin back of the jump seat. Then his eyes are normal, and I'm certain it was all a trick of the low lighting in this part of the plane. Or he probably has colored contacts, like they reflected something from something. I don't know.
Listen,
I say, and try to give him my friendly agent smile. From the lack of reaction, I fail, or he doesn't care. Probably both.
That man who came out of the bathroom assaulted a federal agent, which means, by law, he has assaulted the United States. And he may have my gun. I am legally obligated to arrest him and restrain him for the remainder of the flight. Getting in the way of that is not a good idea. Do you understand what I'm saying? I understand what you think you're saying.
He lets go of my shoulder and straightens up. I try to stand, get nearly cut in half by my seatbelt, then fall back and try to undo the buckle. It won't come undone.
What the fuck?
I mutter as I pull and pull on the metal release tab. It does not release.
Hey, what the fuck?
Heads turn and look our way.
Shh, be quiet.
Brian snaps at me.
What part of your own good do you not understand? The part where you are physically restraining an agent of the National Security Agency.
His hand clamps across my mouth as more heads look our way. I plead with my eyes for at least one passenger to come to my aid. But despite having a flight attendant's hand over my mouth, or having announced to most of the cabin that I'm a federal agent, no one does more than frown at me. After a few seconds, all heads face forward, and I'm suddenly ignored and forgotten like yesterday's news. I'd yell at the cowards if it wasn't for the flight attendant hand on my mouth problem.
I am going to give you some hard truths,
Brian says.
You don't have jack shit for jurisdiction right now. The National Security Agency? Doesn't matter. The United States? Doesn't matter. All that matters is this plane finishes its route so all of the lovely passengers can reach their final destinations.
I mumble a response, and he rolls his eyes.
Will you stop shouting?
He asks. I don't nod.
Let me put it this way. Did anyone come help you when you shouted last time? I'll answer for you. No, they did not. Because you are not a hero here, Agent Krakauer. You are a tool at best, and an obstacle at worst. An obstacle none of them will have a problem removing. Get my drift?
I think for a second, then slowly nod. He lifts his hand, but I can see by how he tenses that he's ready to silence me in an instant.
What do you mean by removing an obstacle? Do you mean they'll throw me from this plane? If you are lucky. What do you think will happen when we land? My office knows where I am. They know what plane I boarded. If this plane lands and I'm not on it, then every single passenger will be hunted down, questioned, and those responsible will be arrested. I have seen some high horses,
Brian says with a snicker.
But yours is easily the highest. You are working from a set of rules that do not apply on this plane. I will not help you again. Sit there, be good, and before you know it, this will all be over. We have ways of making the time pass for those who are not. Like us. What the fuck does that mean?
He shakes his head.
Just sit still and don't make trouble. Please.
I sigh and nod. Not much else I can do until I figure a way out of this shit.
Thank you.
Folks, we are in position and ready for our first group of passengers to disembark.
The captain announces.
On behalf of Roswell Air, I want to thank you for flying with us. Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin for passenger departures.
Brian spins and raises his arms over his head. I can see Zoe at the other end of the plane doing the same thing. Then they both start whooping, literally going whoop, 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 as their arms wave back and forth, back and forth. Edgar Nye is turned in his seat and staring at me. I flip him off and he faces forward with an angry sneer on his face. Then there's a flash of light and several of the backs of heads I have been staring at are gone. The space where they were is empty, and no one seems to notice or care or mind. But I do. I try to stand, forgetting about the seatbelt, and once again, I'm almost cut in half. A strange thought crosses my mind that if I keep fighting against the seatbelt, being cut in half could be a distinct possibility. Brian and Zoe are back to their normal, attendant selves, checking on passengers, answering questions, taking trash that's being held out to them, all very normal. Except for the smell. Instead of the canned, semi-floral smell that is piped through the vents, I catch a whiff of scorched plastic and burning hair. I've worked enough scenes after explosions to know what burnt plastic and scorched hair smells like. Brian returns to the galley, ignoring me as he passes by. I watch him open cabinets and pull out Mylar pouches.
Are those MREs? I ask. I haven't seen those since my days in Afghanistan. They are not MREs. They are pre-packaged gourmet meal pouches, specially formulated for our passengers. Specially formulated? What does that mean?
But before he answers, he slices open a bag, and the smell tells me what that means. It means something nasty died in that bag, and Brian is about to serve roadkill to a lot of people.
Jesus, what the fuck is that?
I ask, tucking my nose down in my shirt. Even the ripeness of my sweat is better than the smell wafting up out of that bag.
This is considered a delicacy,
Brian says, and spoons out portions into small plastic bowls. Once those bowls are full, he opens another pouch and fills more bowls. Then he continues to repeat the process until he has an entire cart with tray after tray of bowls filled with rotten gunk.
What the hell is going on?
I ask as Brian wheels the cart past me.
What kind of plane is this?
Brian pauses and looks over his shoulder.
A plane you should never have boarded.
I watch him walk to the front of the plane, where he stops the cart just before reaching first class. He begins to ask people what they would like to eat. I can't hear what he says exactly, but I can tell by his lip movements and body language that that's what he's asking. I've been on more flights than I can count, and flight attendants have a very set routine. What troubles me is why even ask. I watched him spoon that rotten slop into each bowl. It's all the same. Yet when he lifts a bowl from the cart, it's no longer a bowl. It's a plate with shredded green stuff, or it's a plate with what must be pasta, although it kind of looks like it's moving. Or it's a bag of some sort of snack with packaging I don't recognize and words that aren't in any language I know. Or smoothies. A lot of the bowls become tall, frosted glasses that have straws sticking out of them, each filled with pureed something. I think I smell strawberries and bananas, but it's hard to tell over the lingering odor of 3-week-old dead armadillo that the empty bags in the trash are still giving off.
Would you care for some tea, Agent?
Brian asks me when he returns with an empty cart.
I'd love some food too. Do you have any of that smoothie left? Not for you, no. What does that mean? It means that what you think is a smoothie is far from it and not meant for human consumption.
I'd ask what that means, but I doubt I'll get a straight answer. I try a different approach.
Can I speak with the captain?
Brian pauses as he cleans up the cart in the galley.
What for? What for? Did you really just ask me that? I did, because I will have to tell him why you want to speak to him. Do you know what he'll ask me?
He waits a beat.
What for? That's what he'll ask me. So I'd like a ready answer. Because you've illegally restrained me in this jump seat?
But I haven't.
What the fuck? This seatbelt is strapped down tight and locked.
No,
I mean, it's not illegal. All staff are within their rights to restrain a passenger for their safety or for the general safety of the airplane. You have been restrained for your own safety, as I have stated before.
He takes a deep breath and lets it out in a rush from his mouth. Rot fills my nostrils.
I would suggest that you close your eyes and get some rest. Time moves faster with your eyes closed. I'll keep them open.
Brian shrugs and goes back to cleaning up. When I come to, I know 2 things. I don't remember falling asleep, and I have to pee. Bad.
I need to piss,
I say, my mouth dry, my voice groggy. When I look down the aisle at the rows of seats, the heads aren't right. I see feathers and tentacles. I see spikes and horns and ears that stretch to the ceiling. I see eye stalks. I see mouths with teeth where neither teeth nor mouths should be. What I see are nightmares.
Here,
Brian says, shoving a small water bottle in my face. His hand is covered in gray scales and rough bumps that look like calloused warts. I look up at him, terrified. But his face is normal. And when I look down at his hand holding the water bottle, it's normal too.
Thanks,
I say, and slowly take the bottle from him. I crack it open, down half, then replace the cap. My breath comes in shuddering hitches.
Relax,
Brian says.
Nothing to fear as long as you stay right there in your seat.
My eyes move toward the rest of the cabin, braced for more horrible, impossible sights. All I see are the backs of baseball caps, messy buns, and several folks who have lost the battle with male pattern baldness. I assume they are men, but assumptions seem reckless right now.
Still gotta piss,
I say to Brian after I finish the water bottle. He eyes me carefully.
Unless you want to clean up the mess I make.
Fine,
he grunts and leans in close. Then he jerks back.
You aren't going to try to attack me, are you?
Nope,
I say with a smile that doesn't do much for my cause. I let the smile fall away and shake my head, completely sincere.
No, I won't attack you. Good, because I don't want to harm you,
he says, leaning in again. My bladder hurts so much that I don't even try to argue the point that, again, I'm a federal agent trained in defensive tactics, and he's just a flight attendant. A flight attendant with one hell of a grip, sure, but still a flight attendant. Brian unbuckles my seatbelt. He doesn't use a key. He doesn't have any special trick, and trust me, I'd see the trick because I'm watching him like a hawk. He just unbuckles it as if it's a normal seatbelt and hasn't been keeping me captive in this jump seat for who knows how long.
Thanks,
I say and hurry into the bathroom. I don't even waste time stretching out the kinks in my back or the stiffness in my legs. I hurry to the head, close and lock the door, and barely get my fly open. When the long-held stream hits the toilet basin, I try to formulate a plan. But as I go over the situation in my mind, I can't find an angle. I'm unarmed and not amongst friends. Even when I was shouting for help, I was either ignored or looked at like I was the problem. So going to the passengers to try to rally them doesn't seem feasible. I could attempt another meeting with the pilot, but Brian is still the gatekeeper there. Then it hits me. I'm thinking too small. Instead of looking at the situation like it's me against the plane, I need to look at it like it's the plane against the mighty war machine of the good old United States of America. I pull out my phone and text the AI. I need air assistance. I wait for a response. Nothing. There's a tap at the door as I send the text again. Still no response from the AI.
Are you all right in there, Agent Krakauer?
Brian asks. There's a strangeness to his voice, and it's not just because we're on opposite sides of the bathroom door.
Agent Krakauer?
Just a second,
I say, still waiting for a response from the AI.
Sir, Agent Krakauer? If you were trying to use your phone, unfortunately, there is no service in our current location.
I look at the little icons in the right-hand corner and, yes, I see no cell service. But I should at least have Wi-Fi.
I'll be right out, Brian.
I say then text. Response needed immediately. Situation is foobar. The text sends. Nothing. Then all of my texts suddenly become red and say that they cannot be delivered.
Agent Krakauer!
Hold the hell!
My words catch in my throat as a thin, rubber strand of flesh slides under the door. After about 1.5 feet of the strand is inside the bathroom, it plumps up like a sausage, or more precisely, a tentacle. I stare at it, my mind reeling. Yes, it's definitely a tentacle.
Oh, fuck me!
Just to make it even worse, an eye appears at the end of the tentacle and it blinks at me.
Put your phone away, Agent Krakauer.
Brian says, still on the other side of the door. I can't respond. All of my attention is focused on the eye. An eye that is at the end of a tentacle. An eye that is at the end of a fucking tentacle.
Agent Krakauer!
Still pissing?
I say and tuck my useless phone into my pocket. The eye shifts its gaze from me to the toilet, then back to me.
Looks like you are finished.
How could he? Oh dear God.
What are you?
That's a very rude question.
Brian says.
Please wash your hands and rejoin us in the cabin, Agent Krakauer. We're about to reach another passenger departure window, and you need to be seated for this one.
The tentacle flattens itself once more and slips out of the bathroom. I don't know what to do or say. So I wash my hands, open the door, and stare at the semi-smiling face of Brian.
Please take your seat, Agent Krakauer.
Brian says, just before the captain announces.
Folks, we have reached our second departure point. Thank you for flying Roswell Air.
As I sit down and buckle myself in, Brian and Zoe put their arms over their heads and repeat their whoop routine. This time the noise is 1,000,000 times worse. Every instinct in me says not to look, to just let the craziness happen and deal with it afterward. But the agent training in me squashes that fear and forces my head to turn so I can study the insanity. The nightmare heads have returned. I don't see messy buns or male pattern baldness. I see ridges oozing pus. I see tentacle after tentacle after tentacle. I see undulating clumps of jelly. Then there's the flash, and so many more seats are suddenly empty, including row 23, seat F. No! I gasp and tear my left hand away from my left ear so I can unbuckle my belt. And it works. The belt comes undone, and I'm suddenly up on my feet, left hand pressed to my left ear once again, even though it really doesn't help anything.
Agent Krakauer!
Brian exclaims, rushing toward me. I juke to my right. He takes the bait, and I juke back to my left, slipping past him easily. I race to row 23, seat F. No, I mutter. No.
Hey, pal, get a grip.
A man says from the row behind 23.
Mind your own damn...
My voice chokes off as I stare at a head full of eyes. No mouth, no nose, no other features other than eyes. So many eyes. Blue eyes, cat's eyes, shark eyes, green eyes. So many eyes.
What the fuck are you staring at?
The man made of eyes asks.
Fucking weirdo.
Agent Krakauer, let's get you back to your seat.
Brian says from over my shoulder. His hands grip me firmly, but gently, and steer me toward the back of the plane.
No, I have to find Edgar Nye.
I say, but without much conviction, since my mind is filled with eyes. Brown eyes, frog eyes, spider eyes, hazel eyes.
Did you see them?
I ask as Brian eases me into my jump seat.
All those eyes? I did, yes,
Brian says, buckling me in tight.
It's not nice to stare. No, not nice to stare,
I echo. As Brian walks away, I reach out and grab his wrist. It feels bony and rigid under the cuff of his uniform. He looks down at my hand, but doesn't try to remove it from his wrist.
What's happening?
Leaning down like he's going to tell me the most precious secret, he says,
You got on the wrong plane.
Then there's the ding of a bell, and he's off, and hurrying down the aisle to the passenger calling for his attention. My phone chimes. I yank it out so fast that I bobble it, and it falls to the floor.
Oh, here you go,
a woman says, picking up my phone and holding it out for me.
Doesn't look like it took any damage.
I take my phone. Then my eyes follow up the arm and to the face of the woman standing next to me, her body turned toward the bathroom. It's the woman from the airport, the one Edgar Nye was talking to. Leisel DeLong. She's gorgeous. The most beautiful woman I have ever seen. I don't remember her having this effect on me at the airport, but goddamn is she hot.
First flight?
She asks. I don't know what to say. Her beauty has stolen my breath. I'm lost in her almond eyes. The pertness of her nose makes me want to nibble at it. The swell of her chest has my heart pounding in mine. I don't even want to look down at my crotch. I know I'm embarrassing myself. She opens the bathroom door, glances inside, then looks back at me, and I pretty much melt.
Care to join me?
She asks as she slips into the bathroom. I have my belt unbuckled, and I'm jumping up after her before I can form a single coherent thought. I'm on autopilot, and even my field agent training isn't kicking in. Squeezing in close to her, she reaches past me, closes the door, and locks it.
You ever been part of the Million Light Year Club?
She asks. Then she undoes the buttons of her blouse.
The what?
I gasp as her hands remove her blouse and her breasts are revealed. Sort of. No, these aren't breasts. No, what are? I try to scream as two small, putty-like creatures leap off of the woman's chest and wrap themselves around my face. My scream is lost, covered by things that worm their way into my mouth, my nostrils, my eyes, and around into my ears. Pain like nothing I have ever experienced before shoots through my body. My nerves are pure fire, and I collapse against the bathroom wall.
Oh, you are so good,
the woman moans.
So delicious. They said a new human was on board, but I didn't believe them. Then I saw you and remembered you from the airport. Oh, you looked delectable then, but you have far exceeded my expectations.
I can't breathe. My lungs burn, aching for fresh air.
Yummy. So yummy.
My world turns gray as my oxygen-starved brain begins to shut off, which, in a way, is a mercy, since it seems to lessen the excruciating pain.
Baby, where have you been all my life?
She sighs. Vaguely, somewhere outside of the agony and the suffocation, I hear a loud rattle and slam. Then hands have me and are yanking me out of the bathroom. I hear shouting and screeching and growling and hissing and snarling and... When I come to this time, I have a warm blanket wrapped around me and the faint smell of lavender drifts in the air.
There you are,
Brian says, kneeling in front of me.
Looks like someone learned a tough lesson. Won't be messing with a homunculi vessel anymore now, will we, Agent Krakauer? I don't know what that is,
I reply, my voice a harsh croak.
Here, sip this,
Brian says, and lifts a cup to my lips. I sip and instantly feel better. Not whole, not even close, but better.
That's good,
I sigh.
What kind of tea is that? Just tea. Plain old human tea. Tea.
My throat clenches and I stare at Brian.
It's not tea, is it? Fewer questions, more sips. You have been touch and go these last few hours. Last few hours?
I ask, then sip more tea. Subconsciously, or shit, at this point even consciously, I know it's not Lipton tea I'm drinking, but with every swallow, I feel a little more like myself. So I push the mystery of the liquid's origins away and focus on what Brian said.
How long was I unconscious? Oh, about 24 human hours. Human hours? Hours that humans perceive.
Brian places the cup in my hands, waits to make sure I have a solid grip, then stands up.
I'll be back in a sec, Agent Krakauer. You just stay put. Keep drinking your tea and rest up. I've been out for 24 hours? How much rest do I need? As much as you can get, trust me.
He's off down the aisle before I can respond. So I sip the mystery tea and let the warmth do its trick. When I finish my cup, I remember something from before that woman did what she did to me. Pulling out my phone, I unlock it and press the message button. There's a new message waiting for me. Assignment complete. New assignment incoming. New assignment? What new assignment? I text. Then I wait and wait. One moment, please. It's frustrating, but at least it's a response. Brian hurries around the cabin, attending to the passengers in the main cabin. Beyond him, I can see the first-class drape flutter. Zoe must be up there taking care of the elites. My phone chimes. Your new assignment will be revealed upon the completion of the plane's route. Please be patient and remain calm. Not liking the sound of that, although I already am calm. The tea is helping with that.
Folks, we're about to hit a little turbulence as we prepare for the next passenger departure. Please stay seated and hold tight to your egos,
the captain announces.
Hold tight to your what?
I ask, as Brian hurries back to his seat and belts in.
This is it,
Brian says, his eyes on me.
The 36-hour point. What does that mean?
I ask as pressure builds inside my skull. It's not a squeezing so much as it is a filling, like if wet cement were being poured into my skull.
The 36-hour point is the make or break for new air marshals. I'm not an air marshal. I'm an NSA agent,
I say, or I think I do. It's hard to tell with all the wet cement leaking out of my ears. Then my bones shatter and my blood vessels boil and my skin peels off, and every molecule in my body, and all the molecules I've shed since I was born, all of those too, become red-hot pokers.
Kill me now!
Brian only watches me with mild interest as I continue screaming to be killed. Out of the corner of my eye, I see nightmare faces lean out of their rows to stare back at me. Even as nightmares, I can tell the faces are annoyed. In a second, they all lean back, bored with me and my mad ravings. Memories of me riding my BMX bike as a kid flood through my mind, followed by images of my childhood home and of my parents fighting, and of the dog I loved who ran away during a thunderstorm and never came back, and of my first kiss and my first prom and the year in college where I became allergic to latex, finding out the worst way possible, and the time I got in that car accident and
And thank you for flying Roswell Air,
the captain says. I blink and realize Brian isn't sitting in his seat anymore, but walking down the aisle, returning to the back of the plane. I have a vague memory of the whooping, but I can't be sure because I also have a vague memory of being flung across an Afghan road after an IED detonated while I was on an assignment. There may have been whooping then too. I don't know.
You live,
Brian states, going to the galley to fetch a bottle of water. There are black specks swimming about in the water, not floating, but actively swimming. Transfixed, I watch Brian crack the seal and down the water in 3 gulps. He wipes his mouth and gives me a smile.
How are you feeling?
He asks and tosses the empty bottle into the galley's recycling bin.
I don't know. An honest answer.
He aims his chin toward the rest of the plane.
All passengers have departed. We'll be returning to the airport any second now. Which airport? Does it matter? It should. Trust me, it doesn't. Especially now that you are our new air marshal. I'll be honest, I didn't think you'd make it. When you stepped on board this plane, I would have bet good money that you'd crack after the first passenger departure. But you didn't. You held on. Yeah, you needed some help, but everyone does on their first assignment. I'm not an air marshal. I'm an NSA agent. You said that before,
Brian replies.
Better check your phone.
I do. Welcome to the Intergalactic Air Marshal Service, former Agent Krakauer, Now, Marshal Krakauer, you did splendidly on your first flight. The Intergalactic Air Marshal Service thanks you for holding it together. We look forward to you serving on millions more flights. Your future holds centuries of promise.
Millions? Centuries?
I gasp.
We always have to have at least one human on board while we fly through the galaxy. Something about relative intransigence? I don't know. That's not my concern. I'm here just to keep passengers happy. What is happening? Didn't that text on your phone explain it? Not really. Well, you'll figure it out. You have plenty of time. How much time? Not centuries? That's a joke, right? Marshal, Mark served for 3,000 human years. Good guy. But speaking of jokes, he told the worst ones. Mostly sexist and racist stuff. Although I didn't really get the racist ones, since there are approximately 84,000 races in the galaxy. So I don't understand what's so funny about a guy with brown skin screwing in a light bulb a certain way. Are light bulbs a funny thing for humans?
When he doesn't continue, I realize he actually expects an answer.
I don't know,
I say after a long pause.
They used to be? Well, I hope you have better jokes, Marshal Krakauer, because we'll be working together for a very long time.
Flight attendants and our new air marshal, please prepare for landing,
the captain announces. Brian sits down and buckles up. I'm already buckled, so I just sort of look around, dazed.
You know what I can't ever figure out?
Brian asks, just as I feel the landing gear bump onto the tarmac outside.
Whether or not this assignment is a punishment for something you humans have done, or whether it's a reward for being the best of your kind.
He shakes his head, and I stare as his eyes extend from his head, each on the tip of a thick tentacle. His skin is gray and scaly. He shrugs.
Oh well, it's no big deal. It's kinda a big deal to me,
I say.
That's cute,
Brian replies, and nods at the bathroom as the plane comes to a stop and he unbuckles.
Better go now if you need to. The next wave of passengers will be boarding in a few minutes, and we'll need you keeping an eye on things, Marshal Krakauer.
One of his tentacle eyes winks at me, and I just smile. Not much else I can do, except take Brian's advice and hit the bathroom. Looks like I have a few thousand years ahead of me, so who knows when I'll get to go again. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy these stories, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and check out some more of my episodes here.